Thank you for joining me for the seventh in our series, Introduction to Puberty Education. I'm Wendy Sellers, a registered nurse and certified sexuality educator. I'm also the author of Puberty: The Wonder Years. In this video, we will look at the reasons why family engagement is so important during puberty education. First, some things to keep in mind. Parents are the primary sex educators of their children. This begins at birth through modeling, actions, words, and silence. Also remember that most parents did not have a good sex education when they were young. Therefore, they may feel uncertain about how to teach their own children about puberty. Educating and informing parents is vital. Lastly, parental influence is one of the greatest influences on the sexual behavior of children and adolescents. Therefore, it's important that parents wield their influence. Young people who have a trusted adult, such as a parent, that they can talk to about puberty, bodies, and behaviors are less likely to engage in early sexual activity and other risk behaviors. In order to set up for success when teaching puberty education, it's important to keep these two keys in mind: communication and transparency. Let's talk about each. To be transparent about puberty education, it's important to be open about what will be taught. Don't try to hide anything, it will backfire. Also, show parents what's going to be taught so they aren't imagining things that aren't there. Allow parents to preview the curriculum and any media that is used. Allow parents to ask questions of you, the educator, so that they know what is going to be taught to their children. And allow them to ask questions, voice any concerns, and decide whether their child will participate in all, part, or none of the instruction. To communicate about puberty education, it's important that you listen more than you talk. So listen to parents when they approach you to talk about the puberty education program. This will help you to pinpoint their questions and concerns. And then allow parents to ask those questions, voice those concerns, and give them answers that will allow them to have an informed choice about how their child will participate in the instruction. Lastly, give them options. Parents like to have options about their children's participation. It's important to focus on common values that you have with them, that you share. Common values such as safety, respect, belonging, health, and school success are usually shared between educators and parents. Each part of that partnership has a specific job to do, and together they are more effective and a stronger safety net for children than either one alone. These are some strategies to engage families in puberty education. Send home a parent notification letter ahead of time, letting the parents know that puberty education is going to be taught and what will be taught and how. I like to have schools include an outline of the lessons so parents know exactly what topics will be addressed. Allow them an opt-out form that's consistent with your state laws and your school policy. Active consent means that parents have to sign a permission slip for their child to participate in puberty education. Active consent is not required by most states and most schools, and indeed it can be a barrier when parents aren't able to send that form back in time for their children to participate. Therefore, passive consent is preferred and is most often used. Passive consent means that you send home a parent notification letter and opt-out form, and if the parents don't want their children to participate in the puberty lessons, they would sign the form and return it, designating what lessons they don't want their child to participate in. Include family activities where you are engaging the students with their families in discussing puberty and issues related to puberty. That can encourage that home discussion that's so important. And lastly, in the lessons, always encourage students to talk to their parents, caregivers, and other trusted adults whenever they have questions about puberty or concerns. Based on my experience over the last decades, I've seen some situations that can result in clashes and controversy that might undermine that homeschool partnership. So I'd like to share 6 of these situations along with some information and suggestions. First of all, watch out for the belief that some people hold that talking about puberty will undermine innocence, and that innocence and ignorance protects children, because indeed that is not the case. Ignorance is dangerous, and it leads to victimization by predators. Ignorance also leads to fear when children face the changes in puberty that they don't expect and can't explain. So indeed, talking about puberty protects children from victimization. Watch out when people are concerned that puberty education will increase sexual activity. You've probably heard someone say, if we don't talk about sex, they won't think about it. Or if we teach about puberty education, they will want to have sex. Indeed, this is not true either. The opposite is true. Young people who learn about puberty, learn about sex education, learn about their bodies and relationships actually delay the onset of sexual activity, and it delays the likelihood of getting a sexually transmitted infection or an unintended pregnancy. So acknowledge the feelings behind these fears and beliefs, and then offer reassurance. This points to the importance of the 2 keys to family engagement: transparency and communication. Some parents might fear that schools are hiding things from them, that they're going to be teaching their children things that aren't actually being taught. And schools might be frustrated, on the other hand, by trying to communicate effectively with families about what is going to be taught in puberty education. So try and try again. We're going to talk about ways to do this in the next 2 parts of this series of videos. Now, by the time most parents begin talking to their children about puberty, relationships, and bodies, most kids have already heard inaccurate information from their peers and from the media. So many times parents think their children aren't ready to learn about puberty, and then it becomes too late, and children have already had their minds filled with inaccurate things. We know that children ask questions and report issues to school personnel that reveal their need for more and earlier puberty education. And it's much more effective for children to hear about puberty first from their parents and other trusted adults, such as educators. Watch out for the extra time that it will take for educators to offer options to parents for opting their children out or doing puberty education in a different way. And it's true that this does take more time to offer parents options. However, planning ahead for options that you can implement is well worth the investment of your time and effort, and will establish trust with families. Also, be careful, because sometimes parents feel disrespected by some educators who act like they know more than parents do. And on the other hand, educators may feel mistrusted, criticized, and attacked by some parents. And so it's important to emphasize the homeschool partnership. We are not adversaries, and by working together, we can be more effective at improving students' health and safety than either one of us trying to do that work on our own. Now, the research has shown that schools can focus on 2 main efforts. One is provide parent materials that address the barriers to parental engagement and encourage parent-child communication at home. We'll be talking about this in the next video. The second effort is to increase school and teacher communication with parents about puberty education, and we'll be talking about that in the last episode of this video series. So by using strategies that address these 2 main goals, the homeschool partnership that supports and protects students can be strengthened. So stay tuned for the next 2 parts. Now it's your turn to plan how you will apply this information. What new family engagement strategies will you try?